In this video, I want to talk about the midpoint formula, and we're going to start just with an example. Find the midpoint of the line segment joining 2, 2, this point, and the point 6, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm asked to find the midpoint of that line segment, and if I think about it, that's the point that's just as far away from this endpoint as it is from this one, and I can eyeball it, and I think it's right about there. And if I make that point big enough, assuredly it contains the actual midpoint, right? This distance looks about the same as that distance, and in fact, I think I could guess what it is. And intuitively, if I just look at this blue horizontal distance, it looks like that's right over the middle of that horizontal distance. Well, that would be the middle of just these two numbers, right? X equals 2 and x equals 6. Well, that's not particularly hard to find. In fact, we can just observe that that number in the middle is 4. If we wanted to do some calculation, the middle of two numbers is just an average. You add them up and you divide by 2. 2 and 6 make 8. Divide by 2 is 4. And if I look in the y direction, it looks like that same thing's happening, where that's just the middle of these two y values. And a little more interesting here, right? Looking over there, that's somewhere between 3 and 4. And if we think this through, 2 plus 5 over 2 is 7 over 2, but for now I think I'll write that as 3.5 for convenience. 4, and yeah, it looks like 3.5. And it turns out that idea is enough to find the midpoint of any line segment if you know its two endpoints. In general, the midpoint of the line segment joining x1, y1, and x2, y2 is simply the average of the x's, so x1 plus x2 over 2, and the average of the y's. That is our midpoint formula. So now, well, I'd like to do two examples. We're asked to find the midpoint of the line segment that joins 1, 2 and 7 minus 3, and then 0, 2 and 3, 8. We're just going to apply this midpoint formula. All right, so let's take a look. That first problem gives us 2 points, 1, 2 and 7, minus 3. And we're going to use the midpoint formula. x1 plus x2 over 2, the average of the two x's. y1 plus y2 over 2, the average of the two y's. Well, this midpoint, 1 and 7 make 8 over 2, is going to be 4. 2 and minus 3 would give us a minus 1 over 2. So in the end, our midpoint is 4, minus 1/2. I'm just going to write the word midpoint next to it. Please do me a favor and don't ever label the midpoint with the letter M, because we've been using the letter M for slope, and we want the slope to always be a special calculation. So we'll just write midpoint next to these. I usually write it on the left-hand side, which I'll model here, but it doesn't really matter. It's just nice to have it labeled. And 0, 2 and 3, 8. So again, we're asked to find the midpoint of the line segment joining these 2 points. So just use this idea. I have 0 plus 3 is 3, over 2 is 3 over 2. 8 plus 2 is 10, divided by 2 is 5, and there is our midpoint. All right, the midpoint formula. The average of the x's, the average of the y's, and that gives us a midpoint, which we'll always write down as an ordered pair, never using the letter M next to it, because we do not want to confuse this ordered pair for the number that would be the slope of that line.